What's going on YouTube? When it comes to luxury crossovers and SUVs, Lexus has been making them longer than pretty much anyone else, and at this point their lineup has expanded to include 7 of them. 2 of their most popular models, the NX and the RX, are both 2-rows and have a lot of similarities, which is why we hear from a lot of you guys wondering which one is the better choice. Well, today we're going to figure that out by putting these 2 siblings head to head. And let's not waste any time getting into this comparison. As always, let's establish what kind of pricing and equipment we have for these 2 models. As you would expect, they have the same trim structure. So for both the NX and RX, we picked the 350 F Sport versions. With the same options, the NX comes in at $57,655, and the RX comes in at $64,395. That places our price difference between the smaller NX and the larger RX at just under $7,000. Now this is going to be an objective comparison. We have done our best to weigh the points awarded throughout in major and minor categories. But at the end of this comparison, we will sum up with our thoughts and account for that price difference. But with that being said, let's get into the meat and potatoes. First up, we have the exteriors, and it's very obvious that these 2 are related to each other. Both have very large spindle grills up front, although the RX has a slightly newer interpretation that has less hard edges and a lip at the top. The F-Sport models have aggressive black accents, and the headlights are also almost identical. We have the optional triple beam full LED headlights, and there are also LED fog lamps down below as well. Moving to the side, the RX is 9 inches longer than the NX, and its design amplifies that with its floating roofline. The RX is rocking 21-inch alloys and the NX 20 inches, although they have very similar designs. And speaking of similar designs, the rear is, well, similar. We have the newest Lexus badging across the back, L-shaped full-length LED taillights, and hidden exhaust outlets. The only difference I'm noticing is the wiper is hidden on the RX. Now checking out some of the individual features, both of their mirrors have heating, power folding, blind spot monitoring, and driver's side auto dimming. In addition to blind spot monitoring, both also include every other safety system you can think of, thanks to standard Safety System Plus 3.0. That being said, the new RX can go above and beyond with the optional Traffic Jam Assist, a system that allows for hands-free driving under 25 miles an hour on highways. The RX can also tow more when properly equipped, although most owners will likely never need to. Alright, that's it for the outside. Of course we're going to drive them later and compare things like our signature sound level reading, but before...
If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's roll on to the interiors. There are a lot of similarities, just like with the exteriors, but there are some important differences as well. First, walking up to them, both have smart entry systems and the same key fob. They both also have the new electronic door handles, so you just squeeze it to open it up. One of the things F-Sport allows for is the choice of a bold red interior, something our NX has and the RX has passed on. But beyond that, the seats are both aggressively bolstered sport seats with 10 ways of power adjustment. Both of them have memory, heating, and ventilation. Now once fully inside the cabins, we can begin to inspect the overall material quality. Neither are incredibly luxurious in overall execution, but as you'd expect, the RX has some advantages. It has Alcantara trim that flows between the door trim and the upper dash, and it also uses more real aluminum trim than the NX, which does without it on the center console. After startup, we are greeted by 7-inch partially digital gauges with some special F-Sport graphics. More interesting than that though are the head-up displays, which are very interactive and contain lots of information. Coming back to the steering wheels, we have the same identical ones, both power adjusting and heated. And as far as storage, again they are the same with wireless phone charging pads. As is the trend these days, both CUVs have electronic shifters. This is the newest Lexus design where you have to bump to the left before going into drive or reverse. And when in reverse, both have detailed 360-degree cameras on the display. And now that brings us to the audio systems, so let's go ahead and give them a sample. Both sound systems deliver crisp, high-quality sound, but as you'd expect, more speakers in the RX allow it to have the slightly better experience. Now let's head into the displays, which are dominating features of the interiors at 14 inches. The lower section is used for climate controls, 2-zone automatic on the NX and 3-zone automatic on the RX. The heated and ventilated seats also work automatically in tandem with the temperature controls. Both models have eliminated the previous touchpad controls and switched to the newest Lexus interface, which is entirely touch-based. They have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, as well as built-in navigation. Finally, to wrap up the front of the interiors, both have digital rear-view camera mirrors and panoramic sunroofs. But here's where things start to get really interesting. Even though the RX has a 9-inch size advantage, when it comes to backseat legroom, they're actually really close. The RX is 3.5% more spacious, to be exact, and it actually has less headroom, although neither of those exceed the 5% threshold required to score a point. Now let's also talk about the features. Both of them have rear vents and USB ports, but the NX has the extra 12-volt outlet. Heated seats are available on the NX, heated and ventilated seats are available on the RX, although neither are equipped today. Moving out back, both have hands-free power tailgates as equipped. And inside the cargo areas, we have another surprise. The RX has less maximum cargo capacity. Yes, you heard me right. Due to some packaging and styling differences, the extra length in the RX doesn't translate to more cargo space as a maximum, although it does still have 26% more space behind the second row. When you go to fold down the seats, only the RX is providing a button to do it from the rear space. That's the end of the interiors, but now let's take this fight to the streets. As we head out on the road, you'll notice that both of these balance comfort with a little bit of a sporty edge. They are both powered by the same 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, with 275 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. Since the NX is smaller though, it has an acceleration advantage, 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds versus 7.2 in the RX. Alrighty, and there is 60 miles per hour in the NX 350. So what we have on board with this is a new engine. So previously we used to have that 2-liter turbo. Now we have a 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder with this model. 275 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah.
So it's making pretty good numbers.
All right, 60 miles an hour. This RX 350 is pretty quick. This is basically the standard engine of the RX lineup. As far as the rest of the powertrains, again, they will be identical,
with 8-speed automatic transmissions and all-wheel drive systems. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, the RX 350 comes with an 8-speed automatic transmission. In our testing this week, this is a pretty good transmission in terms of getting you the power when you need it. We will say, though, it's a little slow in between gear changes occasionally. I don't know if it's just like a tuning thing that Lexus might work out over time, but occasionally you'll get like a shift where there's a awkward transition and it kind of sways your head. Just something to note that we did also experience with the NX as well when we had that on loan. And I'll go ahead and talk about the transmission. So we do have an 8-speed automatic transmission aboard, like many of the other Lexus and Toyota products. Overall, it's pretty good. I will say there's a little bit of a kind of hesitation or a space between the shifts. Now, like I briefly mentioned earlier, these Lexus crossovers are still mostly focused on comfort, but the F-Sport handling moniker does mean that you have some enhancements. Both models have adaptive dampers, which means you can change the character by changing the drive modes. Both are extremely soft and comfortable in the normal drive modes, but the slight edge belongs to the RX for ultimate comfort. In sport mode, the NX has a slight edge since it feels more tossable and light on its feet.
We're getting up to speed in the RX. I do want to talk about your ride quality. I don't want to prolong this discussion because that's, of course, one of the main missions of this vehicle. Regardless of if it's an F Sport on the outside or whatnot, this is still an RX at heart. So it does need to have that comfortable nature, and indeed it does. We've been testing this vehicle out for the last 7 days. I have no complaints whatsoever when it comes to the ride quality. It has very, very good ride quality here in the normal drive mode. It soaks up the bumps well, despite having large 21-inch alloy wheels on this particular tester. It is also worth noting that we have adaptive variable dampers with the F Sport model, so we can have that dual character, which we'll show you a little bit later in this test drive when we get out on the country portion of our drive.
As luxury vehicles, we expect the inside of the cabins to be nice and quiet, and indeed both are. During our official decibel readings on the same exact road, the RX is 1 decibel quieter at 55 miles per hour, making it one of the quietest vehicles we have tested.
Alright, now that we're going 55, let's get our sound level reading. Wow, okay, we settled at 53.5 decibels. Very, very, very good sound level reading now. But we'll go ahead and get a sound level reading here and see what it's going to test at. We're looking at 54.5 decibels, which...
And lastly, for fuel economy, they both come in at 24 miles per gallon combined on recommended premium fuel. There are also hybrid and plug-in hybrid varieties offered on both, for those of you who want better efficiency. As promised, let's revisit the price difference of $6,740. Our scale indicates that we should award 3.5 points to the NX to represent that substantial price difference. But as always, I'll remind you that if money doesn't matter as much to you, then feel free to disregard this part. So there you have it. It's basically a tie. Now it's not all that surprising considering these two are mostly the same. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and run through a couple pros and cons to find your specific winner.
Now, you'll appreciate the RX more than the NX if you want a few more luxury goodies, because it does have more luxury available than the NX. It's also a little bit quieter and a little bit smoother. As you would expect, it's bigger and more expensive than the NX, so you're getting those little premium bits over the NX.
Right, and then when it comes to the NX, that should be your winner if you want to save a good amount of money. It's about $7,000 at equivalent equipment levels. And then also, you basically have the same space as the RX, which is rather interesting, but you are going to have very similar cargo space as well as rear dimensions.
And I will also add the technology is mostly the same between the two. The head-up display and the main infotainment display are exactly the same. in both the NX and RX. Now, we want to know your opinion on the matter. Are you taking the NX or are you taking the RX? Head down to the comment section below and let us know. Now, if you're a subscriber of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. And if you're new to the channel, we would really like to welcome you into this family by hitting that subscribe button. You're going to allow us to make more comparisons like this, as well as get us invited to some of the latest car launches so you can see the latest car content. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.